You're watching the Clean Commercial Transportation Update. I'm Alicia Gildy.
And I'm Bill Van Amberg. You know, the technology to reach 100% zero emissions in urban applications by 2030 is here. But what will it take for the world to meet its climate needs before it's too late?
Make sure you register for CCTU mailing lists on our website to keep updated with all of our upcoming Take 5 releases and live CCTU broadcasts.
And follow us on Twitter to stay connected. We're at CalSTART.
And
we will CCTU soon. And we CCTU now. Hello, everyone. It's great to be back into CCTU for our newest March edition of the Clean Commercial Transportation Update. As always, I'm Bill Van Amberg, and I'm happy to be back in our new LA studio with my great colleague and partner, Alicia Gildy. Alicia, this is great.
This is awesome. I love the space. Thank you, team, for setting this up. Hi, Bill. I'm excited to be back here with you and all of our friends at CCTU on this CCTU Tuesday for the latest edition of our 30-minute broadcast. We're here to bring you the latest news coming out of CalSTART and the clean transportation industry.
But, you know, before we begin, we want to acknowledge that our work does not take place in a vacuum, and we're all interconnected and affected by the world events around us. So let's take a moment and recognize something foremost on our minds and hearts: the ongoing brutal Russian invasion of Ukraine. It's been a terrible sight for all of us to see. We're pulling for the Ukrainian people. But with it, the amazing spirit and resistance of the Ukrainian people have actually been a balm to the rest of us, an inspiration to an unsettled world.
It has been exactly 35 days since Russia invaded Ukraine, and close to 4 million refugees have evacuated their home country. Both men and women are fighting to keep their democratic nation, while thousands of innocent lives have been lost. I know I personally have felt helpless, but there are good organizations like the United Nations High Commission for Refugees to contribute to that are making a real impact on the ground. On behalf of the CCTU team and CalSTART, our hearts and prayers go out to the people of Ukraine.
So do what you can to help, as Alicia pointed out. And as we turn our attention to today's broadcast, we want to recognize why the work we are doing is so important, not only to combat climate change, but to promote energy and economic security, and through that, world peace. So thank you to all of our industry partners for the impact that you're making in clean transportation. Now, this month on CCTU, we focus on the huge and growing momentum and funding assistance that is coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law, the power the states have to use it, and the opportunities to build the nation's infrastructure for zero-emission vehicles.
As states prepare their plans for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program and funding programs are released to the states, we want to look at how these funding opportunities support the commercial vehicle infrastructure we need to advance zero-emission commercial vehicles. Today we will talk with two of our friends that are critical to the implementation of these funds and the deployment of zero-emission vehicle infrastructure. Joining us today is Adam Reuter, Assistant Director of Clean Transportation for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and John Schott, Director of Grant Development at ChargePoint.
So Adam and John will share perspectives for state and industry engagement on the rollout of these funds and the main implementation issues as we look to build out the nation's corridors and the ecosystem for electric charging and alternative fueling for passenger and commercial vehicles. We'll see how these partners are preparing for these funds, their priorities, and how to help states realize the benefits of targeting investments for commercial vehicle infrastructure, especially where we want to see community benefit and impact.
But before we jump in, and speaking of corridors, we want to give a big shout out to Van Hool, ABC Companies, and Proterra for its incredible feat driving a zero-emission coach bus coast to coast.
Was this cool or what?
This is so cool. I love this. This is a great example of what can be done. The Van Hool double-decker electric bus powered by Proterra batteries drove 2,500 miles from Florida to California using only public chargers. This trip showcases the potential of long distance for battery electric heavy-duty vehicles and electric charging availability that made this trip possible.
Let's build out more of those corridors, and thank you to Van Hool and Proterra and the team for showing it's possible. That's fantastic. We will highlight more examples of zero-emission trips along our transportation corridors, and partly to do that, Alicia, we have a poll that maybe helps us get into the spirit.
Absolutely. I really like this poll. We're going to give you all an opportunity to tell us what is the first zero-emission freight corridor we should be prioritizing with IIJA investments. All right, first up, I-5, focusing on the West Coast. I-95, maybe the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic corridors. I-80, the Midwest. I-45, Dallas to Houston, and I-70 in the Intermountain Western region.
I wonder what it's going to be. It's a lot of interstate corridors.
All right. Okay, folks, we want to see your vote. There's no perfect answer for this. We need to see it everywhere. But let's see. How's it coming together?
I see I-5 as, and that one's been obvious with California, Washington, and Oregon really leaning into this right now.
Absolutely. All right, well, hey, it looks like I-5 has made the win here, but we have huge potential across those other corridors, and we look forward to seeing you advance those zero-emission freight corridors. We
got to build them out. Now's the time to do it. So let's move right into the news. We've got 3 big takeaways on key trends this month. Takeaway 1, California programs are growing, and the California model for incentives is now open to all states. Here's one example. Tomorrow, HVIP reopens in California with almost $500 million in funding for zero-emission vehicles. We'll show you that HVIP logo here. There's huge pent-up demand for this funding, which could support thousands of vehicles. HVIP funds last year sold out in just hours. There are more zero-emission truck and bus products available now than ever. And HVIP does remain the simplest and most streamlined incentive project globally. Now, that's just the vehicle side. There are also increasing incentives for infrastructure, right, Alicia?
Exactly right. Last week, the world's largest streamlined incentive project for zero-emission commercial vehicle infrastructure opened its doors. The California Energy Commission's Energized Commercial Vehicles Project, administered by our team here at CalSTART, opened on March 23rd, and let's just say it was fully subscribed very quickly.
Congrats on that. That was a big deal.
Thank you so much. The EV Fast Track offered $16 million to California fleets on a first-come, first-served basis. Applications are now being carefully reviewed, and we're hoping to make funding awards very soon. More energized funding will be made available, so please stay tuned. We'll be giving you updates, but a big shout out to my awesome team at CalSTART and the Clean Fuels and Infrastructure team, Tetra Tech, Grid Alternatives, and the CEC for this successful first open, which take us to the national funds. The federal bipartisan infrastructure funds are being made available to states now. And under the guidelines available, some of these funds can be used for states to set up their own incentive programs. In essence, being able to create programs like California has funded, but using federal funds to do it. New York has done this in the past, as has Chicago. We'll hear more about this coming up.
So first big takeaway, California programs are expanding, but every state can now use federal funds to set up their own versions. Alicia, what's our next takeaway?
Well, the next takeaway is the regulatory landscape is becoming clear. The U.S. EPA made it official again. This month, California can set its own standards for tailpipe emissions, as had been allowed under the Clean Air Act. The Trump administration had rescinded this authority, known as the waiver, and it had quite an impact on the emission standards for vehicles. But California is back in the driver's seat to regulate its own emissions, as well as other states that have signed on to California's stricter policies.
EPA made some other big news this past month. They officially released its proposed regulations to clean up even further big truck and bus engines for both smog-causing nitrogen oxide emissions and to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now, while some early comments say that the rules could go farther, one of the NOx options that EPA has thrown out there generally does align with California's tough rules. And in a note out to stakeholders, the EPA signaled that these new rules move us along a pathway to a zero-emission future. Lastly, a powerful action plan was unveiled this month for the 15 states who have signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, to match the goals and outcomes of California's Advanced Clean Truck, or ACT rule, to reach 30% zero-emission truck sales by 2030. Importantly, one of the key components is to enact regulations with incentives in each state to do just that.
So regulatory direction is increasingly clear. The writing is on the wall for zero-emission transportation future. What's our last takeaway, Bill?
Well, the last takeaway, just in time, new financial models are growing. Lion Electric is the latest one to see these trends. It's launching its own financing arm to make sales easier for fleets to adopt zero-emission products. Many vehicle makers and their partners are realizing that they just need to make it easier for fleets to make the business case. So they work with them on infrastructure, often now packaging the vehicle and the infrastructure in one offering, and sometimes even adding maintenance and fuel. It's like a lease on steroids. Ford is also leaning into this model too. In their case, they've launched Ford Pro for infrastructure. They've recently highlighted a range of Ford-branded infrastructure products that they can help their customers plan for and package along with their electric F-150 or e-Transit.
That's pretty cool. Well, and this comes on the heels of multiple companies offering innovative and long-term financial packages for vehicles, infrastructure, or both, such as Ampli, BYD, Fluid Truck, E-Trans Energy, NextEra Energy, and others.
So the whole way that we're buying vehicles and their fuel connection is changing, and new financial models are making it easier. Alicia, shall we sum up what we saw this month?
You bet. All right, so first, California incentive projects keep growing, but now all the states have the ability to create their own using federal funds.
Second, the regulatory landscape is becoming crystal clear, and the signals sent by California are strengthening across the country. Zero emissions faster is the goal.
And third, new financial models are starting to arrive just when we need them to make it easier for fleets to speed their transition to zero.
All right, let's talk next about this transition and the opportunity for federal infrastructure funding to help us do it. We'll be joined by Adam Reuter, Assistant Director of Clean Transportation for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Adam, first of all, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. Great to have you with us.
My pleasure, and it's great to see both of you.
Adam, it's been too long, my friend. I've missed you. Well, let's get right into it. Tell us, how does the funding under the bipartisan infrastructure law support New York's aggressive plans to accelerate the adoption of zero-emission vehicles?
Well, in New York, we've been very busy lately. Governor Kathy Hochul has, in the last 6 months, signed a law that requires 100% zero-emission light-duty vehicle sales by 2035 and medium and heavy-duty vehicle sales by 2045. We have adopted the Advanced Clean Trucks rules just before the end of the year. And Governor Hochul has proposed an even more aggressive timeline for getting to 100% zero-emission school bus purchases and 100% zero-emission school bus fleet in the state by 2035. So we have really aggressive goals and are really running full speed toward them. This infrastructure bill is going to help us meet a lot of these goals by accelerating the advance of light-duty electric vehicles, but also, we're really excited about the commercial vehicle elements as well. There's a great source of funds for electric school buses, transit buses, and we are looking at how we can use some of the infrastructure money for commercial vehicles as well. Although the first tranche certainly seems to be focused on corridor charging for light duty vehicles.
So Adam, I think it's so great, and New York has been super aggressive, and hats off to your governor and the state agencies. How is New York working across the state agencies and stakeholders to kind of help inform the investment needs and the priorities? And are you working with neighboring states to try and do this, because you're so interconnected in the Northeast?
This is such a critical aspect of both the infrastructure bill money, but just generally meeting our goals. In New York, we're really fortunate to have been working across state agencies for a number of years now. We have worked with the Department of Environmental Conservation here on the VW settlement funds. We've worked with our Department of Transportation on spending some CMAQ money, congestion mitigation, air quality money on electric trucks and buses. And we have great partnerships with a whole slew of other agencies, whether that's the New York Power Authority, Department of Public Service, the utility regulators in the state, the MTA. We have a really great relationship foundation already. And that's going to be really important for making sure that we make the most of this money, because so much of this money comes through different state agencies. A lot of it comes through DOT. Some of it comes through through NYSERDA. Some might come through other agencies as well. And to have all of us on the same page and working together, developing plans and coordinating is going to be really important, because transportation is one of those areas that really falls across a lot of different agencies, and we need to coordinate well to be able to effectively spend this money. We also are working very closely with a number of other states, not just in the Northeast, but really across the country. We've had some great support from partners of ours like NASEO, the National Association of State Energy Officials, and who have been organizing conversations between states across the country. We're also part of the U.S. Climate Alliance, which can include states across the country, and some more regional groups like NESCOM, which is a Northeast-based group, and the Georgetown Climate Center has been facilitating a lot of conversations within the Northeast as well. So we've learned a lot from those interactions and working with our neighboring states, because the transportation doesn't end at the state line, especially in a place like New York, where we are so close to so many other states and share so many resources across the region.
Well, Adam, that's so impressive, and really the importance of multi-state collaboration and just the best practices you've identified is quite spectacular. And we need to take those learnings and look at how we can really collaborate and really enhance that partnership across the nation. So thank you so much for that. Well, New York has made some plans clear around speeding the adoption of electric school and transit bus deployments. How will you be supporting that?
We see the infrastructure bill as a great opportunity to advance our plans there. I mentioned earlier that Governor Hochul has proposed 100% of the school bus fleet to be electric or zero emission by 2035. And New York, I don't know if you know this, has more school buses than any other state in the country, almost 50,000. And so this is a big undertaking and can potentially have huge impacts. We're really excited to work with the schools, because we know that that schools are going to need a lot of help to get across the finish line here. Work with them to best access the EPA money that's coming, and really to try to leverage the money that we have and the resources that we have to help bring as much of that EPA money to New York as possible for clean school buses. On the transit bus side, we've been working with a number of the largest transit operators in the state, the MTA and 5 other large transit operators, who have all made commitments to go zero emission by 2035 or 2040. And we're actually just wrapping up some planning exercises with them to help them understand what type of infrastructure is needed to go zero emission, and how they can reach these aggressive targets. Now, there's also a big increase in the low and no emission transit bus funds, as you know, under the infrastructure bill. So hopefully these plans that we've been helping them with can then help them prepare themselves and be in good position to access that money and be very competitive against other states as well.
So, Adam, I wonder if you could give us some insights. I think a lot of states are looking at what New York and other states have done with federal money in the past. Are there some best practices or guidance or lessons that you could share? For instance, New York State DOT has the CMAQ, the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Funds. NYSERDA programs and runs those dollars for DOT in a good partnership. What lessons would you share with other states about how to pull the pieces together to make this work?
Yeah, interagency collaboration, like I was talking about earlier, is such a critical piece of this, and building those relationships and understanding which agencies have strengths in one area or another, and then not having territory wars about it, but really recognizing, okay, we can get more done if I take this and you take that. It's also really important to understand that the funding is only one obstacle to getting electric trucks and buses on the road. If all we did was funding, we probably wouldn't have had as much success as we've had. We've seen over 150 electric trucks and buses come through the truck voucher program, with a lot more on the way. And but you need to have that comprehensive approach. So it's funding, it's the infrastructure, it's technical assistance. And in New York, we have some great programs through the utilities to provide make-ready support and fleet advisory services through the utilities here. And it's also financing. Our New York Green Bank has been looking at opportunities for financing electric trucks and buses as well, and to be able to make that affordable for fleets. So we've really tried to look across the spectrum and integrate the strengths of all the different agencies and where we have leverage points to get to where we need to go.
Well, and Adam, I have one quick question for you, my friend, and we're going to have to move on. So if all this funding works, what does our ecosystem look like in 5 years in New York?
So I think 5 years from now, we will see electric school buses in every community of the state, every part of the state. I think we will see transit buses in all the major transit systems across the state. And we're going to see a great backbone of EV infrastructure, hopefully for both light duty and medium and heavy duty along major travel corridors and in in communities to facilitate everyday travel across the state. I think we have a great opportunity to build a great backbone here, and we're pushing forward.
Well, Adam, you're doing great work, and I'm loving everything you're saying. Fingers crossed that we meet those goals. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and for the leadership that you're advancing in New York. It's been wonderful having you on with us today.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me, and it's great to see both of you.
Great to see you too, Adam. Well, so for our industry spotlight now, we'll continue on this topic. And next we'll be joined by John Schott, who's the Director of Grant Development at ChargePoint. And incidentally, ChargePoint just won a big award or recognition from Fast Company magazine, top innovative company. They scored high on that list. So John, thank you for being here and congrats on that award.
That's awesome. Well, we are in an exciting time for electric charging infrastructure deployment, and ChargePoint is playing an active role in supporting implementation. All right, so John, tell us, what strategy is ChargePoint using that includes both light-duty electric vehicle and commercial medium and heavy-duty electric vehicle infrastructure needs?
Great. Thank you so much for the question, and really happy to be here with you today to talk about this exciting space. I feel so fortunate here to be in the middle of it all, and charging infrastructure is really such a critical component. So ChargePoint, our solutions are scalable to support the needs of any electric vehicle or customer. So, when we were started in 2007, a lot of that had to do with workplace charging. But over the past 14 years or so, we've been building a portfolio of products that doesn't just work for workplace charging, but it works for all the different use cases where you'll need to see EV charging infrastructure. So that includes, of course, light duty vehicles, but also includes medium and heavy. And we have a saying here at ChargePoint that fleet is the future. And so you'll see our level 2 and our DC fast charging platforms in the wild at public locations, but you'll also see them, in behind the fence, sort of applications serving electric buses, electric trucks, and the like. And, this global fleet solution portfolio, it includes everything fleets need to electrify and optimize fueling as they grow, including fleet software for dynamic charging optimization to ensure uptime for mission critical vehicles. It includes fuel cost management and integrations with telematics and fuel card partners.
Well, that modular design is a big deal, particularly a cross integration with light duty and medium and heavy duty. One of the things I'm wondering, and we talked about it at the beginning before the show, how is ChargePoint helping the states plan their developments, and particularly factoring in commercial vehicles where maybe they're not thinking about it? Where do you see the biggest information and guidance needs right now around commercial vehicle infrastructure and incentives?
Yeah, great question. And we are very much engaged with state energy offices, departments of transportation, being there as a resource to educate and to provide guidance on what we've seen in the last 15 years. Adam and NYSERDA being a great case in point. We've got a great partnership with them. I'd say while infrastructure for medium and heavy duty vehicles is growing, of course, in importance. A lot of the focus historically has been on the light duty infrastructure. So this, began a few years ago with the Volkswagen settlement, encouraging states to allocate the full 15% that they could towards light duty EV infrastructure, and using the balance of 85% to fund replacement of older trucks and buses, focusing on electric trucks and buses. One of the sort of biggest areas of focus and discussion recently has been on the bipartisan infrastructure law. There's $7.5 billion that's carved out for corridor charging and community charging, but there's also significant investments being made into infrastructure that can support trucks, buses, port electrification, and the like. So again, while a lot of the focus today is more on the light duty because of the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure guidance that was issued by the Joint Office recently, and that's kind of the first thing that states will be tackling. In short order here, we'll be talking about medium and heavy duty vehicles and infrastructure, and making sure that states are planning accordingly for that funding, which will start flowing very soon.
Well, and getting to that, this national funding could quickly open up additional state markets. What are you seeing in the marketplace among your customers? Is there a huge pent-up demand and interest to act on, or are some taking a wait and plan approach?
Yeah, I'd say at this point, there's been a lot of buzz about this, right? A lot of people have been kind of taking a wait and see approach, maybe sitting on the sidelines. But I'd say that the time is here. The time is now. With this funding starting to flow here shortly, we're seeing a lot of pent up demand and interest for these charging solutions for the fleets that they're planning for, taking delivery of those first couple of vehicles. But, the plan is to convert the entire fleet to go electric. So especially when it comes to infrastructure, it's important not just to plan for that, one or two charging stations to support those first couple of vehicles, but really making those investments up front with that future fleet growth in mind, so that as you continue to convert your fleets to electric, that you have the right upgrades that have been made on the utility infrastructure side to support that. So exciting times nonetheless.
Hey, final real quick follow-up question before we have run out of time here, John. So with that pent-up demand, is this something that you're starting to look at ramping up potential production? How are you going to address what could be a huge surge in demand for your products?
Yes, yeah, great question. And I mentioned, so ChargePoint has been in business for 14 plus years. We are unique in that we are a vertically integrated company. We design all of our own hardware and have contract manufacturers that manufacture that for us. So in some sense, we're in charge or in control of our own destiny. So everything that we've discussed today in terms of the future funding is all incremental. So we've been planning big, opening up new manufacturing facilities and continuing to make significant investments to make sure that we're ready. So I'd say, we're not immune, however, to the supply chain crunch that's been happening. So I would just encourage everybody to really make sure you start planning far in advance of starting to get your vehicles delivered. There could be some added lead time to get your charging infrastructure. That being said, we're here to support and work with you and to make sure that your chargers are ready by the time your vehicles are delivered.
John, well, thank you so much. It was so great having you on our program. Thanks for all the great work that you're doing at ChargePoint. This is so exciting, and we look forward to seeing these deployments happen.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us today for these important discussions around the pressing topic that is infrastructure investments and incentive programs. There is a clear way forward. California has tested some models. Now it's time for states to develop their own plans to support the growth of zero-emission commercial vehicles, meet our climate and air goals by setting clear zero-emission vehicle targets, and build cleaner and healthier communities. But That's it for our broadcast this month. Thank you for joining us on CCTU Tuesday. As always, I'm Bill Van Amberg.
And I'm Alicia Gildy. As we close today, I want to also recognize the month of March for International Women's Day and History Month, and the wonderful women that are leading our clean transportation transformation. In particular, I want to thank the women of CCTU, including our executive producers, Jennifer Manfrey and Whitley Porter, and our producing coordinator, Carly Madden. Of course, our great gents, Amir Sharik, Sam Trotton, Max Lemieux, and David Park for making CCTU possible, including this cool studio that we're in today. We look forward to seeing you for our next episode of CCTU on Tuesday, April 26th. You don't want to miss it. But until then, be sure to stay connected with us by following us at CalStart on Twitter and register for our live broadcasts on our website.
And we will CCTU soon.